How's it going, guys? This is Trent from No Nut Clarity, coming to you today with something a little bit new. So, people that know me know that I love to cook, and I also love making self-improvement videos and talking about mental health topics. So I figured, why not combine both? So that way you don't look at my face the entire time. So I'm going to have a video of me cooking in the background while overlaid with me talking about today's subject, which is going to be hereditary bullshit and why people use it as an excuse to keep on with their unhealthy actions. And today's meal is going to be chicken teriyaki with egg fried rice. So hope you enjoy and let me know if you like it. Hey guys, so like I mentioned earlier, this is going to be a video about people using the word like something being hereditary as an excuse to keep on with their unhealthy habits. And what do I mean by that? You hear a lot of people talk about how they have medical conditions that say their blood pressure is hereditary, their diabetes hereditary, it's been inherited from a previous family members, like how my receding hairline is hereditary. And as a disclaimer, people do have conditions like people are just simply born and built different. Some people's bodies aren't really like one body is not going to be the exact same as another body. Like some people's bodies can't process sugar and glucose as effectively as everybody else's. Some people can't process sodium. Like me, for example, I'm prone to have high blood pressure, and my body does not necessarily process sodium that well. So as a result, I have to kind of watch what I eat in some regards and take more water and intake more potassium to help process that a bit better. And that's just kind of how I was built. Um, some people have conditions, a thyroid condition that makes it harder for them to lose weight. Some people just simply have a bad immune system. Like, I'm not a doctor by any means, but I'm not going to pretend there aren't legit conditions that people have that make it a lot harder for them to be healthy in a normal way. But sometimes you have to think of why certain conditions may be happening outside of just inheriting it from a family member or like a previous family member. Like, say your family has a history of high blood pressure or obesity. Like, is it due to an actual issue with your body, or is it due to your family also having a history of having shitty diets and ruining their bodies to the point where um, whatever happens to their offspring, they're already going to be fucked up. And just as another disclaimer, just one more time, I want people to know that I am not a doctor, nor have I done like Harvard level research. But I'm just making this video to get more people to think instead of just accepting your fate that, oh, I'm just going to just simply have high blood pressure for the rest of my life. Like, there are ways and things you can do about certain conditions that can be helped. And it's not just simply it just being hereditary, meaning, oh, it's all doom and gloom. And that goes back to about my story about being diagnosed with high blood pressure since I was about, I want to say like 14, 15, um, definitely around like early high school time. The doctor started informing me that, or at least informing my mom, I didn't get it at the time, that my blood pressure was at a normal level and it was consistent. Like at some point, it was like 140 over 80, which is definitely very, very bad to have it at. And later in my teens, late 20s, I got put on to, or early 20s. I'm not that old, but I got put on medication because it was so bad, and I was told that all I could really do is reduce my sodium intake and take the pills. But long story short, I decided um, in my early 20s, after I started getting tired of the medication and tired of the idea that I would have to be on that for the rest of my life, I wanted to at least try to see what I can do about it. Because I know I was told that, um, damn, take a shot for every time I say, um, that I would be on this for the rest of my life. And I didn't really agree with that. And so I tried to do what I could to get rid of it. And so I started drinking more water, which was also something the doctor recommended as well. Drinking more water to help process sodium, reducing my sodium intake, which I did to an extent, but I still like having my food taste like something. So, of course, I still use salt, but instead of buying a lot of pre-made stuff, I would start cooking my own food and learning how to cook, which is what you see on screen. And shortly soon you'll see when I start making the fried rice that I put enough freaking MSG in there to dry out a lake. That's not the point. We're not going to focus on that. But anyway, I started taking better control of my diet, cooking for myself a lot, reducing how much sodium that I intake out of like, the processed foods, drinking more water, eating bananas and stuff that contain potassium, because helps you um, potassium helps you process sodium better. And so I started doing that and exercising a lot more. That's how I got pretty strong pretty quickly. I want to get my Dragon Ball Z Goku body. I want to be the big dude. So exercise, eating better, and living better, and also managing my stress. Enabled me, long story short, to get to the point where after about, I want to say a year of that, I went back to the doctor's office and I had my first normal blood pressure reading. I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. It was like 118 over 60 or something like that. And so that reading was good enough for them to kind of like, be like, you're doing great. We want to see you do another one, hopefully normal. So I think about a few months later, my next checkup, I had another normal reading. It was like 120 over something. I don't have everything available to me, but they decided after that next reading to take me off the medication and see how I do. So I stayed consistent with the dieting, the exercise, and the water intake. And 3 months later, after consistently having my blood pressure checked at home, being consistent, I went back to the doctor's office. They checked me one final time and went ahead and was like, well, you're doing really well. So they permitted me to make a choice to decide to either keep the medication or be done with it, because they say I'm doing well enough to the point where I shouldn't even need it if I keep on this track. And I damn sure said I am no longer going to be on the dang stutter. That I no longer want to be on the medication anymore because I feel like I had more control over it. And so to this day, I have not taken blood pressure medication since I want to say 2020. It's 2024 now, and I feel fine. Of course, I've had checkups where I have been stressed out, where it has kind of spiked a bit. And that's unfortunately due to a breakup that happened. But other than that, I've still gotten normal readings, around like a 125 range. And so I can honestly say that I have definitely overcame the fact that just because my blood pressure was told that I was going to be hereditary and there was nothing I could do about it, I was able to overcome that. And I tell that story solely for the purpose of making people ask the question, if you have a hereditary condition, what factors in your or your family's lives could contribute to that? And on top of what can contribute to it, what do you think you could change potentially to break that cycle if possible? Because if I could break the cycle of having that be hereditary, I feel like more people can at least try, depending on their condition. Of course, not everything is always going to be as straightforward as that. Just simply, change your diet and everything's better. But I know for a fact that my family has not always had the healthiest diet in the past. Not the worst, but hypothetically, let's say mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, Uncle Pete all eat shitty. Then, how likely is it for you as a kid to inherit like issues brought on by their bad diets? Because as your offspring, you think about it, like you inherit the traits from your mother and father and from their predecessors too. So if they have had terrible diets, terrible living conditions and whatnot, or they've just, treated their bodies shittily, then probably is going to get passed on to you. I'm not, again, not a doctor, not don't know if that's guaranteed or not, but seeing as how like traits are passed on to your offspring, that just seems to make sense to me. Now, it's not just like food and diets that I want to cover, but what about like mental health that I also want to cover? Like anybody can get depression, anybody can be put in a depressive state, but some people are unfortunately predispositioned to be depressed, their family history of depression, and the way I kind of see it is that a lot of those times there's a family history of abuse, and it's not always guaranteed, but it's not or uncommon for people who have a family history of abuse to be more prone to oppression or depression or abuse. And there's a lot of days, or a lot nowadays, we talk about like generational curses and breaking them to make things better for the next generation, which is not the easiest topic to cover. But at the same time, if you notice the cycle of abusive family relationships, as far as like abusive raising habits, and people who end up dating people that, or actually, let me back up on that. So there are things, it's so weird to me. So apparently, some people say that you end up dating your mother and father in a way where you date people that resemble them, which personally I find weird as hell. But in some cases, I do see that in a way where if your mom and dad were abused and raised you in a way that made you feel abused or uncomfortable, then you may be predisposed to dating those types of people, because your parents are usually your first role models of how you expect to be treated by somebody. So if you're treated in a way that's kind of shitty, then some people end up seeking out shitty people, not usually on purpose, but end up in abusive relationships. And it's like, oh, well, dang, now I'm here. And that's not always the case. None of that is ever guaranteed because, of course, there's many different individuals out there. But when you see a lot of these people who have been in abusive relationships or been neglected and have low self-esteem and get put in situations where they are in an abusive relationship and don't really admit it, then they have likely been mistreated. And a lot of times it's a cycle where grandma may have been abused, mom may have been abused, which led to you being abused. And if you have been, I do feel for your situation. I do apologize that ever happened to you. But at the same time, it just goes to show that a lot of times there's a cycle to this behavior where we sometimes need to take a step back and look at things objectively, if possible. It's not always easy. You can't just simply be like, oh, I'm just suddenly just going to not do this. Like, if that was easy, just flip a switch and do that, then we'd have a lot less people dealing with a lot of mental issues with abuse and whatnot. But sometimes you have to take a look back and really think about what led you to these situations, or what situations has your family been in and gone through that may have led to this current generation experiencing the same things, and how can you potentially break the cycle of that. And it's not always the easiest answer, but hey, this video is not to really give answers, but to at least get people to think about their situation and what potentially may have led them there. Some things, are just kind of, it is what it is, especially with like, diabetes, because while in some cases you can avoid getting diabetes by treating yourself right, some people are just simply born with a body that unfortunately is very prone to having diabetes, or not able to process glucose or sugar as well as others, or at all. And so sometimes it just be like that, honestly. But whether it is high blood pressure, diabetes, depression, I do implore people listening to this to at least take a step back and look, especially if somebody says it's hereditary and you have a family history of any of those things, to take a look at your family's behavior, their diets, their relationships, and see what could potentially lead to those issues that you're currently having. And if your issue may not be curable, see how you can potentially mitigate that issue from happening to your offspring. At least give at least give your offspring a shot to hopefully not have what you have potentially. I would hope that if I ever have kids, that they don't end up having high blood pressure due to me taking care of myself. But sometimes you never know. Sometimes it just happens. Again, I'm not a doctor or a scientist. I'm just trying to live the best life I possibly can with what I have, and wanting people who watch my content to be able to think for themselves and be able to be like, I don't want to be in this shitty situation anymore. Or I at least wanted to try to break out of the cycle, whatever cycle you're in. Especially if you're just going through a bad time in your life. Maybe you had a shitty New Year, you had a shitty breakup, or you're just stuck somewhere in life. And you're just stuck in a cycle. And it doesn't have to be a hereditary cycle, it could be a cycle in general. I want people to be able to think and take a step back and look at what may be causing the cycle to keep happening. And I implore everybody to at least try to fight back against whatever it is in your life that's causing you to, you see, like, whether it be diabetes, whether it be family history of mental health, depression, or family history of abuse, or whether it be high blood pressure. And there's a lot more conditions out there that I can't even think of. Hell, I have ADHD and I have a hard time focusing. It took me, what's it been? Probably over 2 weeks since I made a video because I can't freaking focus. And I finally freaking made one. I eventually got there because I was able to reorganize myself and get myself back to a point where I could actually feel like I'm able to do normal tasks again. And that's not always the easiest when you have ADHD, but hell, I still do it. Shoot, it doesn't stop me from doing anything. But at the end of the day, I really wanted to make this video to hopefully inspire people, or at least get people to think about, especially if you have a hereditary condition, to think about why you may have that, or what potentially could have caused that in your family that has passed on to you. And if so, if it was passed on to you, what has your family been doing that could potentially cause that? Sometimes it's just natural, it happens, everybody's built different. But at the same time, like, if your family's known to eat shitty, then maybe you should break the cycle and eat good, and maybe something will change for the better. If your family has a history of abuse, then maybe you should look at things, especially if you're feeling the effects from that. Maybe you should look at how you can change the cycle of that. Look at what your family's done in the past. Look at who they or their relationships with each other, with you, your relationships with yourself, with other people, and really take a look at your life as a whole and think about why things may be the way they are and how can you fix them. And this is just in general. But again, this is mostly involving hereditary shit and people just giving up and letting just because something is hereditary be the reason that they just simply continue with their unhealthy habits and destroying their life. Because everybody deserves a fair shot, but unfortunately not everybody's given an easy fair shot at life, especially when you're born from the get-go with something terrible or something that just hinders you. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't, at least for yourself, give yourself a fighting chance and try to fight back against what you have, because you never know. Like, I didn't think I would beat high blood pressure, but I wouldn't give it a damn try. And sure enough, I was able to essentially find a way for me to be able to live with the a body that's more likely to have high blood pressure if I don't take care of myself. So I just took care of myself better. And I make it sound simple. It's not always that simple and easy. Trust me, it took some trial and error. And definitely me going through cycles of like eating no sodium things. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to eat things. Like the food I'm making right now, that's good. I want to keep making stuff like that. I don't want to ever have to eat no sodium Ritz crackers again. They are disgusting. I like having my food taste like something. But that's my spiel on that. I hope you're able to get something from this. Thank you so much for listening to my little rant about hereditary bullshit pretty much. And I hope you enjoyed while I was cooking in the background because it actually came out really good. Like, I enjoyed it. This is one of my go-to things to make. The chicken teriyaki stir fry or chicken teriyaki with the fried rice and then combining it all. And hopefully you got something from this both visually and auditorily, if that's a word. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, this has been Trent from No Nut Clarity. Thank you so much for watching my video, and hope you have a good one. Peace. Don't need to make plans. It's all in your hands. I'm too busy. I'm spending all my time.